Prime Minister Modi has landed in New York. He's on his first official state visit to the United States. What is the significance about that, and how do you think that this visit is keenly going to be watched by powers around the world?
Well, it'll be watched very much in India, and hopefully it'll also give attention to the India-US relationship in the US as well. It is, as you mentioned, the first state visit by Prime Minister Modi to the US. He's visited many, many times before. The significance, I think, will be to showcase how broad the relationship is and how on almost every big issue today, India and the US are in discussions and conversation, and in many of those areas, perhaps most of those areas, they're cooperating as well. And I think we will see elements of that showcased over the next few days.
So when you look at the relationship between India and US from the domain of defense, trade, healthcare, education, technology, we know that defense is something which is high on agenda. What will you say on that?
So defense is, hopefully we'll see some progress on that. There's some expectations. I think that it's still being negotiated now, but I think we will see hopefully some forward movement on defense co-production and defense trade in some critical areas that are very vital to India's future defense industrial capacity and also for Indian national security. But I would also say that defense is part of a larger issue on many areas of technological security and economic security as well. The US and India are aligning very closely and cooperating very closely.
So how much do you think China is going to be the focus between the two areas? As we know, it has been aggressive in the Indo-Pacific also. We are seeing the Russia-Ukraine conflict. How much do you think that both these topics will come up during the discussions?
I mean, there are some of the big issues shaping the world today. I would say on China, clearly India and the US have similar concerns about China's rise and have been on the receiving end of Chinese aggression and are concerned about Chinese aggression, and that is obviously getting the India and the US to cooperate more closely together. On the other hand, the India-US relationship also stands apart, and a lot of the cooperation is happening regardless of China. And if you see that on bilateral trade and economic issues, on investments two ways, on student and R&D cooperation, education cooperation, a lot of that is happening regardless of the China relationship. So obviously it is an important factor, it is an important geopolitical factor, but it is not the sole. India and US are not defining themselves because of China. On Russia, I think it is just a much more immediate concern, and India is feeling the effects for its defense and national security, for its food security, for its energy security, but also for the larger geopolitical shifts that are occurring. On some areas, I think there's a deep understanding of that, at least in the US government. But in other areas where there are differences, I think one of the issues I think Prime Minister Modi has done in the past, and